Hi, my name's Heidi Kirby, and welcome to Secrets to a Healthy Lifestyle Summit. The purpose of this summit is to educate people on how to heal their health naturally. And today I have invited Link Freeman, who is a licensed massage and bodywork therapist with over 8 years experience. He is a healing arts professional, Qigong instructor, shamanic practitioner, and world traveler. He has undergone extensive training in neuromuscular massage, freedom body work, core shamanism, clinical qigong, tarot reading, astrology, and somatic healing practices. And I chose Link to come speak with us today because of his perspective on spiritual healing. And I am really excited for him to share this unique perspective with us. And so let's get started. So Link, what's your perspective on spirituality's role in our health?
Well, thank you, first of all, for inviting me to the summit. This really means a lot to be able to share, my beliefs and my practice on a platform. And so to answer your question, spirituality's role in healing, to me, it feels like it's the core of what everything else around kind of radiates into. So if the spiritual healing aspect is missing, it really, to me, doesn't matter what technique we use, if we find the right diet, if we find the right herbs, if we have all the right prescriptions, the right exercises, things do not align and line in place. And this is a testament to the power of our soul, and its effect on our life is much greater than, oh, I ate sweets or I ate dessert every night this week. It's really, if we're aligned with our soul, that's going to have a much greater impact on our well-being and lives. And then, yeah, from that place of alignment, then maybe we can start to look at these nuances and cleaning up this diet thing, or what's the right exercise for me, or do I need to get a massage once a month? All that comes after I feel like we get our spirit in line. So we could talk a long time about that.
That was just beautiful. I had like head to toe chills when you said that. Because it's so true. You know, if you eat a bunch of cookies and you're not connected, we just aren't connected, right? Maybe that's why we're eating the bunch of cookies. So let's talk about ways to connect to spirit, soul, whatever that is. Everybody calls it something different, right?
Yeah. Well, the reason why my introduction is so long is because I've practiced so many different things. And that's one because I'm not able to focus on, oh, I found the holy grail, I'll use this is the one technique. But it's also because I believe there are as many ways to connect as there are people. So having a more widespread approach, I'll have a tool to reach a different person. If someone's a mental person, this came up with a client yesterday. We were talking about letting go, which is, of course, very important in spirituality on all levels. And for her, she said, letting go, I need to understand what it is I'm letting go of and why I'm clinging to it.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like a very mental sort of approach to her spirituality, to connecting. Like, if she can understand it, then it facilitates her spiritual process of letting go. Other people, maybe they just need an emotional release. They just need a good cry. They don't even know why they're crying,
Mm-hmm.
And so they need a more emotional based practice, maybe singing, and they just feel and they're just releasing. And that's their way of connecting. Other people, the body itself, just like working out, like just going for a good run, like that helps everything else clear away. And then there they are with a little bit more silence and stillness to connect with the soul and listen. So yeah, spirit, soul, God, whatever reaches us in the way that's useful to us. So it's really about trusting our own unique way of connecting rather than, oh, my friend's been meditating in Zazen, and from 2 months, and they've been having such great results. I need to do that. It's like, well, maybe that's not for you. It's not the Zazen that's doing it. It's because they found a way to connect. That's what I'm trying to get to people.
That's so profound. Like, find your way of connecting, right? And I think for people, our audience, we don't realize how disconnected we are. So, where would you start with a client per se, on the importance of this finding this way of connecting? Is, I guess, my question.
Well, I like astrology because it really helps me get, it's like a map to someone's psyche in a way, or to the way that their soul is being expressed in
Mm,
this lifetime. So that's really what I start with a lot of people, because then I can get a different approach, or the words that are going to land with them, because I've been able to track over time what works with different signs. Like, okay, for this person, I'm going to need to really focus on the grounded, practical applications. I can't get up all here and, talk about the astral realms and the dreams and the fairies. It's not gonna, it's gonna be like, well, is that gonna pay my car bill? So astrology is kind of where I like to start if they're open to, getting that map. And then even clients that aren't open to astrology, I still take their birthday and do it for myself, so I know how to relate to them and orient with them, and start to open up and have these conversations about connecting and getting in touch with themselves.
and some people, I'm guessing, would like, how do you practice? Like, how, I guess my question is, I think as we do anything and we enroll in anything in our life, right? It has to be a practice to get better at it. It just doesn't happen. I mean, for some people, probably some people are very spiritually aware, but I'm guessing for most people and maybe our audience that they need a practice.
Yes, that's what I like to really emphasize, is the daily aspect of this. Like, yoga class once a week is great, but that's not becoming integrated in part of your life and how you connect every day. That's
Mm,
like, oh, that's a good exercise did. I got some tension out. But if you were serious about connecting with your spiritual path, first make time for it every day. Like,
mhm.
you just block off a sacred time that works for you. I like first thing in the morning. Some people, they need it to wind down, where they pray at night, or what have you. Whatever, you have kids, have different lives, but you
Right.
do need to say this. It's like you're because we're always in dialogue with spirit. So you saying, I am making this time here to connect with my soul, the details will get filled in. That
Right.
was one of the fun, most fascinating studies this year that I heard about, is like, when people were trying to break habits and facilitate change, they were trying to get people to run more, just get some exercise. They said, all you got to do is at 5 p.m. every day, you go put your shoes on. That's all I want you to do. You don't have to think about, I have to go run a mile, I have to run for 10 minutes. I don't, you just put your running shoes on, see what
Mhm.
happens. Maybe for a week, you just put your shoes on, and then a couple minutes later, take them off and do something else. But eventually, with that time you said, I want to connect, your soul will start to speak to you in its own way. You'll feel guided. You'll feel moved. Oh, I want to just do some gentle stretchings. I want to dance. I want to put on some music that's really in my head right now, or in my heart, and move to it and sing to it. So the details will get filled in if we first show up on our half of it and say, I'm going to make this time because I'm serious about this practice, making one, discovering one. And yeah, that's the practice that's what I would guide people to, because I've gone the opposite way, where I tried to force myself into a shape that didn't really serve me and my uniqueness. But I was like, but this is the way it has to be. And that was a grueling path. And I don't think it has to be a struggle for people. I think it could be a lot more joyful, just celebrating our connection.
So well said. It's not a one size fits all, right? We you just show up, explore. Um, so we talked about tarot cards, and you were going to do a little reading or whatever, but let's talk about them as a spiritual tool and kind of neutralize the conversation around tarot cards for our audience.
Yeah. Yeah, tarot cards, that was probably where I started out, where I was listening to my soul, because that's just something you pull one card a day and you reflect on it and you see what it's speaking to. And that's what I've tried to clean up with them as a spiritual tool rather than this esoteric, nebulous, sort of entity. It's really the way we use something.
Right.
Anything can be used in many different ways. We can, do harm with a knife or we can chop vegetables. So with the tarot, if our intent is what is coming up from the unconscious, or to use our language so far, what is my soul wanting to reveal to me today? You connect
Beautiful.
with that, and you're choosing from the place of your soul. And that's what the message is, because that was your intent. Your soul was choosing the card. Whereas if you just kind of like randomly, a card falls out, or you're just shuffling and you just kind of absentmindedly look at a card, and you're not really into it, then you try to make sense of what that card meaning is, that's not putting our mindfulness and attention on it properly, in my opinion. That's just kind of casually going through with things. And the stigma is well earned because, there are things that could influence the reading that we don't want to influence. That's why I do caution people to really get centered as part of that, like make that time for your soul, and then this is my soul talking to me. That's what I want to draw a card from. Don't want any other nonsense. So that's why I really start with one or two cards, and you use it as a tool, like, oh wow, and you see how that archetype of the tarot, because the tarot are very archetypical.
Right.
Carl Jung would really love them as a way of working with the unconscious, and you just see how that archetype plays out in the day. It's guaranteed to show up at some point, because all these archetypes are playing out all the time. That's why the tarot always seems to resonate with us, right? Like when I do a reading for us in a few minutes, it's going to land in everyone's life because we're all human. Everyone's going to have that thing going on. Now the magic is the synchronicities and how much emphasis those cards might play out. Like, wow, I really did meet a new connection today when I got the card that said attraction or something. That's wild. So
Right.
opening up to that magic is the fun part. But the core of the practice is like I'm just reflecting on how this is playing out in my life, and putting my attention on it as I go through my day. And that's
That,
why it's a daily tool as well, because it's just one card.
that's that that's beautiful. I mean, I loved what you said about anything, it's how you use it. It's a tool. Any tool can be used positively or negatively. But if your intention is pure and it's for your soul, you bring it, that only good can come from that, right?
Exactly.
Is what you're saying. So do you
Yeah.
want to do that now or do you want to do that at the end?
We can do that now. The other
Okay.
part I didn't articulate. I want to, because a lot of the other stigma it gets is divination, like it's
Yeah,
future telling. What I
right.
want to clear up about that is that oftentimes the tarot, if you get a full reading, you go to a reader and you see it, that's the way the current patterns in your life, if left unattended to, will play out, right? Like if you're in
Right.
a destructive mode and you're being angry and vicious with all your close connections, like where is that going to lead? It's very predictable. So I use the tarot in the present moment, like what is coming up for me to reflect on, and then having attention around that and deepening our relationship with that archetype, we can grow and change and evolve it so that we realize and experience the future's not set in stone. We still have our choices. The tarot is not like this is today's ultimate fate, It's not the fated reading. It's oh, we get to explore this archetype today out of all the things that we could focus on.
Right. Right. Well said. I love that. Um, okay, so do we want to start?
Sure. So I'll show the two card reading. I like that because it's just it gives us where we're at and kind of a good, okay, and that interacting with another card, it gives us a little dynamic thing.
Great.
So again, we'll get really clear with our intent that
Mm,
we're pulling cards that's going to be of the service to everyone watching this video for their spiritual growth, for their connection with their soul.
mm.
All right, so the first card is this is a deck from based on manga, sort of Japanese art,
Oh,
and it has the four seasons. There's different seasons in each card. So this is the card of the King of Pentacles, which is the earth element.
hmm.
And the quote, this deck I like because it has really powerful quotes. The quote for this card is there's a time and place for everything. It's really about the power of place in the earth element. And so in my life, how this card is played out is like I'll have a special place in nature. Like I have a river to go to grieve, just for grieving. I go there to let go. I've built a relationship with that river. And there's just the power of the place. It's more than feng shui because you're building your own association with that place. Like this is the restaurant I go to when we're celebrating, a victory at work or something, and that's your
Mhm.
treat. And that's just it deepens those connections and associations so that just being in the place itself is like, wow, it has its own power and it'll shift you. So
Mhm.
that's where we're at. We're meditating on the power of place.
Mm.
And the king, of course, the king archetype is very much more the masculine. Like I get to choose where I'm at. I get to choose what I have control over my place, my room, my space. So really paying important attention to that today. Especially we're doing this recording on the new moon, so I really like to clean and rearrange space on the new moon, get everything nice and reset.
Okay. I like that.
And then we'll choose a card for the do it face down. For the My teacher Philip Young, he says it's either the goal or the challenge, kind of depending on which card you get. Okay. So we got the Ace of Wands, and as you'll see, this has all four seasons in it.
Mhm.
And now the wands it's the element of fire. It's like magic. And the quote for this one is know who you are and don't be afraid. This is an awesome creator
Powerful.
card. It is a powerful card. So
That's a
you
mess.
put them together, right?
Right.
And you get a pretty clear meditation and reflection on, okay, the king, embodying your king archetype and the power of creation that we all have within us with the wands. So, so I hope that serves you all whenever you're watching this and you see how that plays out.
Wow. Very, very powerful. It spoke to me profoundly. So no accident that we're doing this today. And I hope I know our listeners will relate 100%. So what other type of tools do you use? Astrology, tarot?
Astrology, tarot, feng shui can kind of help just get things a little bit more aligned. Like that feng shui is actually a lot more grounded and practical. My favorite story, I'll try to make it really brief. I changed the direction of my bed, the way I was sleeping,
Mm-hmm.
just because I felt like it. I was just intuitive about it. And then I learned later that week or next week about the different directions and what each one means relative to me. And the synchronicity was I had just changed my head to the direction of prosperity. And that same next week is when I went into my business full time. And I haven't had to be employed as a massage therapist. I've done my own work since then. So
Wow.
like it was just I turned my bed 90 degrees and my life changed. I'm sure there were other factors involved, like my meditation practice and the other things I do in my life. But that's what I mean about once you get the spirit down, you make these simple little adjustments with feng shui or diet or herbs, and a lot can open up.
Things open up. Talk a little bit just for our audience, because maybe some people don't know what feng shui is. I mean, I know what it is, but let's just briefly describe that for them.
Feng shui literally means wind and water, and it's talking about aligning ourselves on the earthly plane, our physical stuff, our direction of our heads, so that the energetics that flow through the earth, the earthly energetics, are more harmonized. Of course, there's also feng shui that aligns itself with the movement of the stars, is a little bit more advanced. But the basic concept is that we're aligning things well so that the energy is flowing more efficiently in our lives and through. And it's a whole art and science to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And what are oracle cards?
Oracle cards, now those are where you can get very specialized decks. There's angel oracle
Yeah.
cards, there's a oracle card for Kuan Yin, there's oracle cards for the I Ching. And those, I like to use them. I personally, you build your own relationship with the cards, but for me, those are more special occasion cards. Like I did one for the new moon, or do one for summer. And you see those play out over much longer times and patterns. Like the cards we drew today, that you could really experience those in a deep way in one day, right?
Right.
But if you're getting like a deep healing from Kuan Yin and you're healing like um, conflict, conflict resolution, let's say, that may take weeks to play out and resolve and to infuse into your life. So I work with those in their own way. That said, again, I really emphasize you build a personal relationship with each deck too. Like this deck only wants to be used in this way. It's like a new friend. It's like, how do I use you, angels? Like, when do you want to come into my life and work with me? Oh, you want to work every season? I work with a different set of archangels. Okay, and you just listen, and then you work with those decks in their own way. But those are much more specialized tools. The tarot is like something you can carry around in your pocket. You can help out anyone. I've done it with kids with playing cards. Like you can really have fun with the tarot and use it versatilely. But oracles, like those are cards where, okay, you want the special blanket or whatever you put the cards on. You want to really honor it. The act of drawing an oracle card, because those are think of it as like you traveled a long way to go to the sage at the mountaintop, and you're like, okay, I'm really going to take this
Wow.
one to heart. So that's my feeling for oracle cards.
Okay. And then what's I Ching?
The I Ching or I Ching is
I Ching.
it's called the Book of Changes. It's a lot more. I like it because there's like zero stigma around it and there's zero fluff. The Chinese were pretty good about saying, well, there's yin and yang, there's
Hmm.
positive and negative. You take the interactions of those two forces, you get 8 basic symbols, which is called the Ba Qua, and you can look those up. Those you'll see them as like 3 lines, little blocks of 3 lines, and sometimes they're broken, sometimes they're solid. They're on the Korean flag, actually. That's where most people can see them in
Really?
them. Yeah, the four symbols around the Koreans' central thing. It's a very Taoist flag, actually. Um, and then you take those 8 and you multiply it into 2 blocks. So there's 64 hexagrams. And now those 64 hexagrams cover basically it's called the Book of Changes. So all the flows and iterations of change in life kind of get covered by those. There's a
Wow.
time where there's like, we're the creator, we're very much starting a new program, starting something new. That's where the hexagrams start. And then interestingly, that last hexagram is called after completion, which means it's not the complete, it's not everything's in perfect place. It means things just got messy again and we have a new cycle. So that's how it ends. So nothing is ever finished in the I Ching. It's just a new iteration of change.
That's beautiful. Um, it's reflective of life, right? This all is a reflection of life, is what
Yes.
I'm hearing you say. Um, and what about divination? Divination? What is that?
Divination. Yeah, that I
Divination.
did. That's what I spoke to earlier about the future casting. It's not getting a reading like what's going to happen in this, what's going to
Right.
happen with this. So many people get anxious about that. What's going to happen in my new relationship? Well, that's up to you. What the reading will do, if you use the tool, like I said, appropriately, is you will get a reading on what forces are at play in that relationship. And now you need to learn how to manage those and balance those and communicate with those. Otherwise, yeah, if you get the devil card at the end, things might fall into, some disarray or hedonism, but that's only because you didn't recognize what's going on and you let the divination play out. It's like self-fulfilling prophecy.
Prophecy.
I don't, people use divination as self-fulfilling prophecies because they get a reading and they say, well, that's how it's going to go. And that's
But
only
you
if
have
they let
choice,
it go that way. Yeah. So don't give up your choice when you're
right?
doing these things. Yeah.
Um, and lastly, as we wind up here, I feel like we could talk for more than 30 minutes.
For
Um,
sure.
um, I'm sure there's way it just keeps growing. But I think what I'm hearing you say is let's get started. It's important to get started and let your spirit, your soul lead you where you need to go. Um, so what is the role, would you say, of a spiritual reader, mentor? Is that what you would say you are, a spiritual mentor?
That's the title I've been most comfortable with. I've had a lot of shamanic training. We didn't touch on that too much, but in the end, it's the tribe that chooses the shaman. And because there's so much cultural stuff around that, I don't call that myself. But spiritual mentor is starting to get closer. But the role that I play is, the nickname Link. It's to connect people
Yeah.
with themselves. I'm not here teaching. I'm not a teacher in that sense of like I have the gospel or I have Buddhism, the philosophy that will change your life. Even the Buddha didn't see himself that way. He
Right.
had 10,000 teachings because he knew something different would reach each person. So my whole aim as a mentor is to kind of guide, to reflect people back into themselves and reflect what they're I hear them saying to themselves and say like, well, it seems like what values you is like physical things. So, why not try going out into nature for 5 minutes and see what happens. So it's more about suggestions and that type of guidance to link people back with their own sense of guidance and spirit, not like, some of my clients, I keep trying to correct them. They're like, oh, well, Link said this would happen this month, so that's what I'm going to do. It's like, no, that's not, I didn't say.
Right.
I want
Right.
you to connect with what is coming through in your own guidance, because that's the ultimate authority. Don't give your authority to me. That's why I really try to stay away from, I never want to be called a guru in this lifetime, please, no, or anything like that, because it's you're the guru.
You're
That's what I want
empowering
people to take.
people. You empower people to get in touch with their own spiritual guidance.
Well, the word empower is a little bit tricky for me because
Okay.
they already have the power, right? I just want to, raise the awareness or to inspire them. Like, oh, I have this within me already that I can get in touch with. Like, there
I
are
love that.
empowerments in spiritual traditions where they're like, oh, we're, projecting a certain um, information from our lineage, but that's not my role. I just want to reflect people back to look, it's already there in your life already. You
Okay.
just forgot. You forgot that you forgot.
That's beautiful. 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 What about, I have a question on this conversation. What about people? I guess, some people are deeply religious, right? And maybe some of this might come like push up against, or how do
You
you navigate?
One on one, I find it very, very easy. It's hard to speak to the audience on religion because, well, I guess I've heard a new definition of religion that I can respect. And religion to
Yeah.
this person was that you're following a set beliefs system and guideline and lineage that kind of promises a certain outcome. So whether
Mhm.
that's Christianity and following the teachings of Christ is the
Right.
way to heaven, or even Taoism, where if you follow the alchemical path in a certain specific way, you will reach being immortal, a celestial immortal. no matter what religion structure you're following, I can respect that if that's your path and that's what you've chosen to do and that's where your authority lies. You might not find benefit in working with me, but spirituality is in that given structure because we all kind of need some degree of structure, right? Whether it's a
Right.
formal religion or our own kind of, these are my values. The spirit kind of takes its own unique, unpredictable path through that. And I want to speak to that inner nature and be like, don't turn down the volume on your own spirit, even if you believe things in your religion so strongly. Don't
Yes.
don't don't mute your own inner beauty and spirit's guidance, regardless of your tradition. It speaks in all the forms. So that's
That's
what I would
beautiful.
try to say in a broad sense.
That's beautiful. So well said. Yeah, don't mute yourself. You're given spirit, whatever you believe that came from, right? It's in you. It's dying to get out. So, anything else you'd like to add to the conversation?
um,
Mm.
wow. I think no, I feel that that feels pretty. Like I said, I really prefer working one on one because then we can have a dance,
Right.
and I can see where you're coming from and what matters to you, and we can kind of it can flow and work together. It's really a beautiful process being in the mentor role or being in someone that's providing guidance. But in terms of like being on a platform, I should probably be saying a lot less than I've said today. You know?
Actually, I think you did a beautiful job.
Thank you.
I'm
Thank
I think it was wonderful, and I'm so glad you joined us. And let's talk about what's coming up for you with your book and your website and where people can go to get that, our audience.
Yeah. Um, well, what's coming up for me professionally is I'm really transitioning into holding more classes, workshops. I call them play shops to really give this
Mm,
enlivened, let's have fun with this. It doesn't have to be work energy. So I'm shifting into that role more. And I want to, this talk itself this is my showing up. Like I'm ready to start guiding more people one on one with the mentoring and the astrology, feng shui, and the tarot, I Ching. So my website, healcyon.com, that's HEALCYON.com, you can look at the different modalities, see what speaks to you, and you can book a session. The initial consultations are free because I,
okay,
I I really honor that I might not be the right fit for a person, and I have a lot of people in my network. So it's like, oh, I've heard you. I want to listen to where you're at, and then maybe you need more intense body work from this person, or maybe you need a sound music healing. If you really resonate with sound, I know someone for that. So the initial consultation is just 30 minutes. It's for free. I'm happy to offer that, and
great.
so that's where I'm at with sort of transitioning my practice out of just massage and body work because that's been more of a silent, like I don't want to tell people or share my wisdom sort of modality. I'll just do it through touch into more of a, well, I've studied and practiced with these arts for so long. It's really a shame not to offer it to more people.
Beautiful, beautiful. Do you do that only in person, or can you do it through Zoom?
No, yeah, there's virtual sessions available as well. And
Beautiful,
I've done tarot readings over Zoom as well. Get the screenshot of the cards and yeah, it's been just as effective as in person.
beautiful, beautiful. Well, I want to once again thank you. I know it spoke to our audience. And I think you did a beautiful job of explaining that spirit inside of us, that it's so important to connect to, however you take that path. So I really thank you, Link. Um, and we'll say goodbye for now, but I'm sure I'll be seeing you again.
Well, thank you again, Heidi. This is wonderful.